Yes. We can see the holes of the needle.
They believed to be from the thorns that were on Jesus' head. You think so?
It is hard to see it. I don't believe it. Or maybe. I don't know.
A crucial question is whether the sudarium is made of the kind of fabric dating back to the time of Christ.
This weaving is very simple when you connect the warp and the weft in a very simple way. It looks like the textiles from the Byzantine and Roman period.
So we may talk roughly about the time of Jesus Christ.
It could be also later, for example, from the Byzantine period. But I don't think it belongs to the medieval period, for example.
And is this typical to what they did in the land of Israel?
No, it is typical to Europe. They didn't use this spinning in Israel. We have a few textiles which are spun like this one, but they are imported to Israel.
There's only one example of a 1st century Jerusalem burial cloth to use as a comparison. Just like the sudarium, the cloth is a superior imported fabric.
The shroud is made of wool, and it was imported from Greece or Italy, and it is in very good quality. I mean, they didn't use a textile which was patched and mended, but they bought it especially for this purpose. Also, you can see his hair. Even after 2,000 years, is still shiny.
Like this 1st century material, the Spanish sudarium also seems to be a high-quality import, and its weave suggests it could be from the right period.
Identify.
You can see here the weaving mistakes. It's funny to see it.
But many supposedly holy relics are medieval forgeries. Further examination of the Oviedo sudarium is required. In the Spanish capital of Madrid, a research group specializing in holy relics analyzed the configuration of stains on the sudarium. The patterns of blood and other markings are complex.
By reproducing these blood stains in the laboratory, we do know an awful lot about the position that the body was in and how long it was in each position while the particular blood stains were formed. Now, when the cloth was first wrapped around the head, we know that it was the head of an adult male with long hair and a beard who was dead. These stains could not have been formed with any kind of breathing movement.
Forensic evidence always tells a story. In this case, could it be the distressing evidence of a real crucifixion?
We know that the body was in a vertical position with the arms upright and outstretched. Now, the initial idea was to wrap the cloth all the way around the head, but most probably the head would have been stuck to the arm as such, because rigor mortis tends to set in very, very quickly after a violent and traumatic death. So it was folded back on itself as such, leading to the parallel sets of stains. Now, the body was left in this position for between 45 minutes to 1 hour. Now, the arms were then moved down, the cloth was then wrapped all the way around the head, and the crease marks show us that it was then tied up in a knot. The final group of blood stains can only have been formed by the body being carried, because the movement, the jolting movement of carrying the body, led to the liquid, rather than seeping through the nose and nostrils, more like gushing out. And somebody was deliberately pressing the cloth to deliberately gather in all the blood, which according to Jewish belief is the lifeblood. That's where the soul is. And they were taking every possible care to make sure that no blood escaped and that all the blood would be buried with the person.
The forensic evidence seems to tell a gruesome story. But is it a story of a real crucifixion?
The bloodstains on the sudarium, especially the ones at the back of the head, show us that his scalp had been pierced by various sharp objects. Now, this is perfectly compatible with a crown of thorns, and these are the stains that we do see on the sudarium.
It appears that the cloth may well have covered the face of a crucified victim. Amazingly, genetic material from that victim may have survived over the centuries. Many believe the sudarium is the cloth which once covered the face of Jesus Christ. If they're right, there's a sensational possibility that the cloth may hold the physical remains of Jesus, and even a sample of his DNA.
This is the remaining sample of the sudarium that we get after the DNA structure.
This is a result from a stain area of the sudarium. So we can see the amount of DNA that we have. This is the fragment. And with this information, we can go through the sequencing method to obtain the whole sequence. The sample that we have analyzed from the sudarium definitely contains mitochondrial DNA. This is the type of DNA that we use for forensic investigation, for example, for missing person, and also to analyze old samples like bones or something like that.
Mitochondrial DNA follows the genetic line through the mother.
This sample has no detectable DNA from the father.
Huge advances in genetic science have led to the sensational possibility that the DNA of Jesus Christ is locked in the vaults of a Spanish laboratory. A mysterious disc covered in strange signs, dating back to an ancient civilization over 3,000 years old. The Festos disc has astounded historians ever since it was discovered. It seems to have been made using techniques thousands of years ahead of its time. A cipher so puzzling, no code breaker has been able to crack it. Some suggest it's a magic talisman, others an ancient astronomical calendar, or a sophisticated navigational tool. Now one man believes he may be close to unlocking the secret of the Festos disc. This mysterious ancient object, covered in strange symbols, was unearthed at one of the holiest sites in the ancient world. The legendary Mount Ida, almost 2.5 kilometers high, on the island of Crete. This mountain rose up from the ground at least 4 million years ago, long before the first human walked the earth. According to Greek myth, it was the birthplace of Zeus. 100 years ago, Italian archaeologist Luigi Pernier made a sensational find.
This is the Festos disc. They used small seals and they would stamp the clay with them. It is impossible to decipher the disc because it is a unique piece.
The mysterious Festos disc is believed to date back more than 3,500 years. It's covered in intriguing and baffling signs. Codebreakers have tried in vain to unlock its secrets, but one man believes he may be getting close. Gareth Owens used to teach at the Institute of Archaeology in London. Now he lives in Crete and is dedicated to cracking the Festos code.
For me, my interest started more than 20 years ago. But the Festos disk is one of those objects that doesn't leave you alone, and you don't want to leave it alone either.
Historians even find its very existence difficult to explain. Gareth Owens is on his way to meet a master potter who thinks he knows how the disc was made. He's going to recreate this disc using traditional techniques.
Kalimera, Sterling.
Kalimera. How are you? Fine. Yeah.
Fine, thank you. Thank you. Could you perhaps show me how you make one?
Yes.
The disc displays 242 mysterious characters arranged in groups, leading in a spiral towards the center and covering both sides. Many symbols are repeated. There are 45 different signs in all.
Get it right, of course.
But as the potter explains, the repeating characters look exactly the same every time.
I believe this is the key, the disc.
So they must have been printed.
What's interesting, and you have shown here, is that every example of the same sign is identical.
Yes.
It's the same, which is impossible to do by hand.
Many historians find this incredible, given the object's vast age. Block printing is supposed to have been invented 2,500 years later by the Chinese. The disc seems to be the creation of a civilization far ahead of its time. If the disc is a printed document of some kind, what does it say? Gareth believes the secret must be locked in the signs.
How many signs are you dealing with? Too many for an alphabet, too few for a system like Egyptian or Chinese.
If this is a language, then it's not one that anyone has seen before. The purpose of the disc is a subject of rigorous debate. The idea may seem far-fetched, but it's possible that the ancient people who made the disc used astronomical instruments. Crete is an island. The ancient Minoans were one of the earliest seafaring peoples. This is known from depictions of longboats in Minoan art. Could the disc have been an advanced navigational tool? Gareth goes to the waterfront in search of some answers. Sailors have been navigating these waters for countless generations.
Καλησπέρα, γεια σας, τι κάνετε? Ξέρετε τι είναι αυτό?
Ο δίσκος Φεστό.
Πόσοι άνθρωποι του είχαν χρησιμοποιήσει, έχετε ιδέες?
Αυτό στην αρχαιότητα υπήρχε στη Φεστό, τώρα ποιοι το χρησιμοποιούσαν και πόσοι δεν ξέρουμε.
Μία ιδέα είτε μέσα στα σκάφη μπορούσαν να το χρησιμοποιούν. Σας ενδιαφέρει αυτή η ιδέα?
Αυτό μπορεί, ναι, δεν ξέρω, αλλά δεν ξέρουμε γιατί χρησιμεύε και τι σημαίνει αυτά που έχει απάνω. Νομίζω ότι δεν ξέρει κανένα να το διαβάσει.
These days, Cretan sailors use high-tech devices like GPS, but they haven't forgotten traditional navigational methods used over thousands of years.
Δεν είχαν τότε GPS, δεν είχαν ραντάρ. Τι ήταν αυτό?
Και τη νύχτα ψαρεύετε? Ναι. Πώς μπορείτε να πάτε έξω τη νύχτα με το σκάφο σας? Πριν είχετε GPS, πώς το κάνετε το ψάρεμα?
Πώς το κάνουμε?
Ναι.
Με σημάδια.
Πάμε το βράδυ, αυτή την ώρα.
Gareth believes that no one has convincingly demonstrated any link between the markings on the disc and astronomy.